Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Dean. I'm the Director of Athletics here at IMG Academy. I'm joined today with Dr. Patrick Mulroney from Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital, here just to have a conversation about COVID-19 and what we're doing at the Academy, how this has impacted bringing people on campus, and what we're doing to make it safe. So, Patrick, welcome. Why don't you just give a little background of yourself and what you and Johns Hopkins do for us here at IMG Academy?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. So I'm Patrick Mulroney. I work at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital, and we provide medical care for IMG Academy through health services. And we provide care throughout the year. You know, we have health services on campus that's staffed 24 hours a day and 7 days a week by a nursing staff that's there for children or athletes on campus. In addition, myself and Dr. Sarah Irani come down and hold clinics 5 days a week, but we're available to those nurses, to call and ask questions and help them through the protocols as well. Through this process, we've also worked very closely with IMG Academy in helping understand some of the changes that have occurred with the way we're going to treat the campus with COVID going on.
Yeah, it's been a different time, right, Doctor? I mean, with the impact that COVID-19 has had on the world and the global impact, can you just describe a little bit to our audience what you guys have done with us and for us since the COVID-19 outbreak?
Right, and this started, all the way back at the beginning of March with all of the students that we have on campus, trying to decide best practices as things changed. And we've been meeting. The Johns Hopkins administrative team has been meeting with IMG's administrative team like 5 days a week, essentially looking at best practices to provide safety on the campus and make those hard decisions that are the decisions that all of our families have made on how our lives change according to COVID-19.
Yeah, the interesting thing is we'll get questions all the time of, hey, why are you opening June 28th for camp? Why are you opening that soon? And why haven't you opened earlier? Right? We'll get those type of things all the time. And we've landed on June 28th just to kind of follow the guidelines of our governor and the state. But from a health and a wellness perspective, can you help us from the medical side to just talk about kind of the safety precautions we've taken to go into that decision to open up on June 28th?
Right. And, we've had these conversations on a daily basis. And at the beginning of May, our governor lifted the stay-at-home order, and we knew it was going to be a phased response. So we felt that the end of June was a good time so that we would be able to look at what other states' reopening strategies were and to see if we had a surge or a resurgence of COVID in those states. We felt that it would give us ample time to have other organizations put out recommendations so that we would be able to implement those recommendations and provide the best experience for campers in the safest environment possible.
Yeah, part of that whole process is the screening and what are we doing when people come onto our campus? What do we do, whether they're guests of ours, campers of ours, employees of ours? Can you just touch a little bit on what we've put into play right now from a screening perspective?
Right. And, screening has been one of the ways that we're trying to decrease the exposure to COVID. So for a camper per se, questions are going to be asked ahead of time that related to your medical history and potential exposures, and then symptoms that you have before you even arrive on campus. That is going to be the same for any guest that comes onto campus. And then when you arrive for the first time, there's going to be another set of questions asked, many of them the same questions, looking for potential exposures to COVID, and then any symptoms that you have that might be unique to COVID or any other illness. And on the first day of arriving to the campus, a small physical exam will be done, and a face-to-face interaction with one of our nurses from health services will be performed, where they'll take vital signs, they'll do a short physical exam, but again, they'll ask those questions in person. And then our plan is that every day for campers on campus, their temperature is going to be checked. And we're going to go through those questions again to make sure that no new symptoms have arose, trying to make sure that the people are held accountable and campers are held accountable for reporting those symptoms, so that if we do have somebody that starts having those symptoms, we can then have them be quarantined or have them not expose others.
Yeah, and we'll have had, with the amount of people that visit us, we have a lot of repeat campers, we have a lot of repeat students, and certainly our own employees. But with this change, if you could give advice on a couple critical pieces of now that kind of the health and well-being landscape has changed a little bit, but just some advice from the medical profession as to here are some critical things when you're visiting our campus you should be aware of, or you should be at least prepared to see a change in, just to give some people some guidelines.
And that's one thing about what we've all dealt with over the past 2.5 months is that change is happening on a daily basis. And it seems as though once you've caught up with one thing and become comfortable with it, rules change. And on campus, some of the things that you're going to see that are different is that we're going to be screening. When individuals are indoors, they're going to be wearing masks, which is the norm, and masks are going to be, you're going to be asked to be wearing those. When you're outside or when social distancing can occur, then masks don't need to be worn, and that's going to be really important. The other things is that the campus is now set up better for social distancing, so that we're staying in that socially distanced norm now to try and stop any spread should somebody have COVID and maybe be asymptomatic.
Yeah, I think
another thing, Scott, is, for camp, et cetera, it's going to be things that you're just normally used to going and filling up your own bottle of a drink at the sports field, and we're just not going to be able to allow that. Any areas where cross contamination or high touch points, we're trying to make sure that we're cleaning those exceptionally well. And there will be small changes, but overall, I think that some of these are expected, and is what we're seeing out in society nowadays.
Yeah, no, agreed. The people that will visit us, we're obviously an institution that draws people in globally. We get people from all over the world that will come in and visit us. We'll get people that will drive it. And so they're going to travel a lot of different ways. For those that haven't traveled at all so far, this may be their first trip, right, to come down and visit us for a camp or to come back to campus. What tips from a health perspective can you recommend if you are traveling, whether you're coming to IMG or going somewhere else? But
right. So my first recommendation is try and limit your encounters with others prior to coming. So an idea of being socially distanced or quarantined for a short period before you arrive is probably a good idea. The other things are that when you're traveling, you should be wearing a mask at all times. You should be absolutely practicing social distancing, because if you haven't gone out of the house very much, you haven't had very many of those exposures. Places like airplanes or other areas of high congestion are places where people are a lot closer together. So I would suggest that anybody coming down here by plane is wearing a mask during that entire process. You need to be washing your hands often. So hand sanitizer, but in addition, washing your hands, making sure that you're keeping your hands clean. And then, the last thing is that if you're coming down for camp, a lot of our children have been inside, playing video games or trying to train indoors. We've got to get heat acclimated at this point. So wherever you are, you got to be getting outside. You got to be starting to do some activities, because many of our athletes are undertrained right now. They're just not in great shape. So getting in some shape before arriving is a good idea, because other normal situations, heat illness and other injuries that can happen from not being in shape could definitely happen if you're trying to go from couch to training. And I think that goes for all athletes.
Yeah. I think the really unique thing is we always say at IMG that we are a unique institution. We are different than any other place in the world. I think the relationship that we have with Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital has really been pushed to the forefront here just because of the COVID-19 piece. So I want to thank you for spending the time to come on and explain to our guests what we're doing and what we're attempting to do, understanding that it changes daily, as you said, but having a partner like yourselves involved with us allows us to stay hopefully ahead of the curve to make this place as safe as possible, and so people can come in and continue to enjoy the great facilities that we have. So I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. And we hope that this eases some people's minds and gives them some clarity as to what we're doing and how we're doing our best to keep our campus safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And as we go through this, know that we're staying on top of the literature, know that we're watching the guidelines. And yes, you're right. Some of these things may change, but we're going to attempt to provide best practice but absolutely the safest practice for anyone visiting campus.
Thank you again.
Thank you.